Welcome to The Real Look.
I'm Bruce Hardy.
And I'm Chase Williams.
I'm so excited to introduce this episode's Northern Lights guest, Heather Caine, leader of Style to Design and owner of Keller Williams Realty Naples in Naples, Florida. Heather Caine's real estate journey began in 2003 when she and her husband ventured into house flipping in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Over time, her passion for real estate evolved from investment to helping buyers find their dream homes and optimizing sellers' properties for top dollar sales. Raised in a military family, she harnessed discipline and core values to achieve her dream of establishing her own brokerage in 2012. Since then, Heather has established a groundbreaking technology platform, Style to Design, which was recognized this year by NAR as a leading technology tool for realtors nationwide. In 2022, Caine Luxury Team closed $232 million in volume and 410 closed units. Please enjoy this conversation with Heather Caine. Well, g'day, Heather. Welcome to The Real Look. Where does today's podcast find you?
We're in Southwest Florida. So my real estate team kind of does all the way Fort Myers down to Marco Island, so all along the coast.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we all have a life. We all have a journey prior to real estate. So give us your story.
I grew up military. I am if you are on time, you're late in life. My dad was a colonel in the Marine Corps. He flew President Reagan. So wherever the president was, my dad was for most of my childhood. So I grew up with a really strategic plan my whole life. I've been in real estate since college. So I managed a 355-unit apartment complex through college. I've been in every aspect of real estate from property management to commercial and then landed in residential. I've been a broker for 13 years in real estate, had my license for 20 years. And I also own a local interior design and staging company. And I also own a national staging and design company. And I invented what's called reality staging and reality renovation that just got awarded by the NAR as a top technology tool for realtors nationwide.
Yeah, it is fabulous. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, you've got a lot going on there. So first, if I could ask, what was it that attracted you to real estate right out of college, just going in to do that?
Yeah, I know this may sound like so silly, but for me, family and my faith are like the two most important things in my life. I wanted to be a mother and I wanted to be in control of my own schedule. This is when all my friends were partying and I did not even have a fiance or a boyfriend. I was like, someday I'm going to be a mom and I want to be able to set my own schedule. I also grew up military, so I saw that what it was like to kind of be owned by somebody else. And I just wanted to own my own life. That's why real estate kind of resonated with me because I felt like no one could ever put me in a box or cap my ceiling.
Oh, that's awesome. So now you said you were in property management initially, right? You were doing that while you were in college?
Yes. Did
you like property management?
No, I hated it.
Do you hear that hesitation, Chase?
No hesitation.
You couldn't pay me any amount of money to do property management these days. I have leverage, which is someone else who does it for me. Definitely not the lane I want to be in.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned that you did commercial and then have ultimately sort of landed in residential, which actually is a different story for most people, right? Because a lot will start in residential and make their way to commercial. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for me, I always feel like life is a purpose. And I have felt that the best purpose I have is the emotional aspect of real estate. And I felt like in commercial, there wasn't really an emotion around it. It was very transactional. And I really love the idea of making an impact in families' lives. And that's why residential just really, it wasn't about the financials. It was strictly about just making an impact.
So Heather, you've built a really, really big business on the residential side of real estate, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Once you landed in that space, right, you love the emotional aspect of serving these people at that level. What did the journey of building that residential business look like from the beginning?
So in the beginning, it was just me. I've always been interior design, so I've always staged all my own personal listings. It was me with my garage full of decor. I mean, that was me in the beginning, right? Before I even met my husband, I have bought and sold and renovated properties on my own. So I took the wallpaper down. I did the flooring. I did everything myself. And I just loved flipping properties. And so what happened was in my early 20s, when I was flipping these homes and doing these, all of my friends were watching me and seeing me make really good money. Then they wanted to do it. And then I helped them buy their first house. Then I helped their parents buy their houses and their aunts and their uncles. And then I graduated the second homes, where they needed to upgrade because now they were going to have a family. And my business just kind of gradually grew just by referrals. And I remember I was pregnant with my second daughter. A lot of agents would come to me and say, can I be a part of your team? Can you start a team? I want to work for you. And I was like, no, no, no. And I finally said yes. And before I knew it, I had 30 agents on my team. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? At the time, I think I had a 10-month-old and a 3-year-old. And I was running a brokerage in Dallas, Texas. And I serviced the entire DFW Metroplex. And it happened literally in like a year. I went from like me deciding to get my broker's license to like that skyrocketing. My oldest daughter was going to kindergarten. And I was like, I don't have to be in Texas anymore. Let's open a second location. And that's when I opened a second location in Naples, Florida.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, that is. So, I mean, what were some of the lessons you learned in that year?
So much. You have to have systems. You have to follow the MREA, and I did not. So I think I tried to invent my own systems. I did not do a very good job at it. I realized that I had to take a step back in order to take a step forward. I ended up kind of firing myself from that team leader role, and I hired someone else that was much better than me. And she kind of helped with the longevity and growth of Texas, which was a beautiful thing. So I think it's learning when you need leverage and when sometimes you're not the right person sitting in the right seat.
So the desire to move to Florida, was that a lifestyle choice for you?
Yes, definitely a lifestyle choice. But my husband and I buy properties on online auctions, and a property, which you would love this. So a property close to the water where the average price per square foot is about $1,000 a square foot. The bank listed the property at 3,600 square feet, but it was actually a 5,000 square foot house. So you can do that math. And we ended up buying it because we're like, we're going to hold it, flip it 2 years for capital gains, and then we'll move back to Texas. But it was almost like an investment we couldn't say no to. And then we just fell in love with it and we didn't want to move.
Wow. So you'd started your own independent brokerage in Texas.
I did.
And then you did the same thing then in Florida?
I had to redo it all over again. Yeah. No reciprocity, no nothing. Yeah.
Right. So what was that like? I mean, because you were obviously new to the market there. You didn't have your sphere of influence and all of those people that you'd gone through school with. So how did you build your business when you'd moved to Florida?
It was interesting that you asked that because when I became a broker in the state of Florida, so how it works, the Naples area board of realtors, you have to almost get like ignited in, like you have to go to the board and like all the brokers come and you like put your hand in and you like swear on the ethics and stuff like that. So I walked into the room and I did not look the norm of the other brokers. And I actually was told that I was in the wrong room and sales associates were down the hall. And I said, no, I'm a broker. And they said, yes, honey, we know. Broker associates are down the hall. And I was like, okay, no, I'm the big B. Like I'm the broker. Like I'm starting my own brokerage. They really laughed at me and were like, well, good luck, honey. It's going to be tough. And for me, it was like game on. I became such on a mission to literally have them know that if they saw my name in the future, they should be worried. So I did what every reasonable person was. I sent audition tapes to HGTV. Literally, I did. And I got accepted and I filmed 9 episodes of House Hunters with HGTV, which got me national syndication. And then I also became the real estate correspondent for the Fox 4 local news station. So that way I did that strictly for brand recognition. The goal was that when people would see my brand, they would know who I was. And they would know my value proposition because my value proposition was what was syndicated on a national level and a local level. And then that helped me attract the right talent to the team. And then also gave me a great conversation starter, introducing myself to people in the marketplace.
Wow. Don't come into my market. I'm scared.
I pity those other brokers. I really do.
It's so funny now because when my agents or myself go on a listing presentation and someone comes behind us, I'm always like, hey. And then you can just see them like, but I love it.
Was it a good old boys network? Was that what it was when you first showed up there? Yeah, I can imagine. Now, you mentioned that with your national syndication of HGTV, you were able to push out your value proposition. So what was your key value proposition that you brought to the market?
So I was de-Tuscanizing Naples one house at a time. So I was going in and showcasing the full potential of every home so that way the buyers could see past the Tuscan style that was no longer in style anymore. So I was leveraging my tools, technologies, and gifts that God gave me to see past what people saw in front of them and help the buyers see the full vision. That is when Gary Keller realized what I was doing. He's like, can you put it in a box? Put this in a box and help every Keller Williams across the country. And that's how Style to Design, my national platform, was born, was based off of, not everybody has the gift of staging and design, but everyone really needs a tool that helps them do it. So that's why I created and invented reality staging and reality renovation, the platform that now we have hundreds of agents that have adopted.
Okay, so if I could step back one step.
Yep.
So you were an independent. How did you end up at Keller Williams?
Locally here in Naples, we have a huge national and international buyers, right? And I realized as an independent broker that nobody knew who I was. It was really hard to brand and break in and win luxury opportunity going into those luxury listing appointments. So I went on a mission. I interviewed every brokerage in town. I guerrilla warfared everybody to see what people were offering. And faith is number one for me. So I love God, family, business. But the other most important thing for me was because I am, my dad always said, if you support your troops will support you. So for me, it's all about my team, right? It's not about me, because if I make it about me, my team's not going to last. So Keller Williams was the only brokerage that created a win for my team. Everyone else wanted to give me money. They wanted to make it about me, and they didn't make it about my agents. And that's when I realized that that's who I wanted to be in business with.
Well, which fits in perfectly with our Y4C2Ts, right? Success results through people. And you certainly had experienced that as a independent brokerage owner, and then kind of found this platform that felt that way as well. What was that process like, Heather, going from successful independent brokerage owner twice over in two different locations to now kind of engaging with and taking advantage of the platform of Keller Williams? What was the good, bad, and ugly of that whole process?
It wasn't easy, brutally honest. It was a huge win. My business doubled. So grateful for that. It was a lot of teaching the agents to think bigger, right? Most people only see what's in front of them, and they only see cap and splits and, all that kind of stuff, right? So I really had to retrain the agents on their mindset. Something that always stuck with me is like, motivation is temporary, mindset is permanent. So it was like, how do I permanently shift their mindset to say, okay, I'm no longer a small boutique brokerage that's only helping people here. I'm now national, I'm now international, and I have this huge network. That was the hardest part. Keller Williams is the Disney World of real estate. You can choose whether you want to go on roller coasters or you want to do characters, right? You have to choose what lane you want to be in and perfect it. And all the agents saw were Disney World, and I don't even know where to begin, right? So it was like, I had to really nurture and figure out what they wanted out of Keller Williams and help them hone their skills in that lane for them to see the value, if that makes sense.
Yep, makes great sense. Otherwise, it's like an elephant, right? It's overwhelming. And if you don't take one bite at a time, then you don't get the full advantage. And here you are giving them guidance around that. And even though you mentioned it was hard, which I appreciate you saying that, your business also doubled, which in and of itself is hard.
Well, and for me, it's opportunity, right? I would never have this separate entities of business. So Keller Williams taught me where entrepreneurs thrive, right? They taught me that innovation stacks. Here's your real estate business. How do you stack additional revenue streams in order to grow wealth, right? So I feel like Keller Williams has taught me more about fundamentals of business, where a lot of the other brokerages were solely focused, like you can't even brand outside of them. You can't have separate businesses outside of them, where Keller Williams has been the opposite. They're like, how do you create wealth and how do you thrive as an entrepreneur? And that's where I think Keller Williams and Gary Keller is so unselfish, because they could try and make it all about them, and they don't. They really, really invest in the agent and help the agent think outside of just their real estate business.
Now a brief word from our sponsors. Stick around.
KW Young Professionals is a community of Keller Williams Realty International on a mission to develop the next generation of leaders in real estate. They do this by equipping their members with foundational leadership education and experience, all in a safe environment to learn how to lead. By joining KWYP or launching a local KWYP chapter, young professionals gain real-life experience of what it's like to lead a KW Market Center or real estate agent mega team with minimized risk. They believe if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And if you want to go fast and far, go with the next generation of leaders of KWYP. Interested in joining or learning more? Head to kwYP.org for membership benefits, testimonials, and so much more.
So, Heather, you made a comment earlier about you were trying to break into the luxury market. How do you see serving luxury clients different than serving a regular priced client?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about convenience, right? So we have an entire concierge program. So when someone lists with us, we do everything from the personal home organizing, scheduling, all the donations, all the staging, all the interior design, all of the packing. We truly give it that white glove experience, which is what they want. They're willing to pay for it, right? Where someone else, that's non-luxury, they don't care as much about that. They just care about how much money they're going to save. We have more millionaires in Naples, Florida than Manhattan per square mile. Our clients are willing to pay for it, and we're willing to provide that service for them.
I love that. So before we move to style to design, because I really do want to talk about that, what do you do? I mean, you guys closed, 410 units last year for about $232 million in closed volume. Mm-hmm. What do you do to generate leads?
We have an ISA team calling on FSBOs and expireds. We have circle prospecting. We do reverse farming letters. We also use a platform called Ylopo that helps us generate buyer leads. And also we have Raya, that's our artificial intelligence that's really communicating with those leads to help give the agents leverage. And then I teach and train, I coach all of my agents on how to build a business by referral. So all of our agents have to be a leader in a lane, which means that, like I have one that's the leader of the Republican Association of Naples, where I have another one that is leading an entirely different organization. I really coach and train the agents on, don't worry about the leads as far as calling on and stuff. I'm going to handle that for you. You go out and you become a leader in the community. And by doing that, you're going to get business.
Wow, it sounds like you provide a concierge service for your agents as well as you do for your clients. I love that.
We do, yeah.
So Heather, I'm curious, when you think of this idea of encouraging and coaching and holding them accountable to being leaders in the community, what are some of the key ingredients you think makes a great leader?
The number one ingredient is respect. You have to be respected within the community in order to lead. For me, I train the agents that, in any environment, you don't go and just talk about who you are and what you do. You ask them key questions to learn about their business. I believe that every big business is about you connecting. So I teach and train them how to connect people together, because if you connect enough people together, then they're going to think of you when they're thinking of the real estate connection. That's basically how I coach all of our agents to really build a business by referral, is think about how many people a day, like every day, how many people did I connect to each other to help them grow their businesses? Because really you want to target business owners that are also trying to build their own businesses.
Love that. And you get the learning by osmosis because you're automatically putting yourself in an environment with other leaders in the community, right?
If you ask enough questions the right way, guess what people do back to you? They ask you the same questions, right? But if you go in and you just throw up everything about yourself, they're just going to look at you and be like, oh my gosh, just another realtor that's just wanting our business. Like, no, like go into it and bring value. Don't go into it and just talk about yourself.
Well, Heather, I love the fact that Gary Keller challenged you, right, to go out and do something. And I think what you've done with Style to Design is really brilliant. How did you ultimately get to this place? I mean, the technology, do you have some coding chops?
I have a whole coding department now that you asked that.
How did you build this platform?
what happened is I was at Gary's mastermind with his top 100 in Texas. And he asked the group of agents, which it was my first time ever to go to one of Gary's masterminds because I joined during COVID, right? And nobody was doing in-person stuff. So it was Gary's first in-person with his top 100. So imagine walking into that room where everyone hasn't seen each other in years. They're hugging. They're so excited to see each other. And I'm the new kid on the block that knows nobody, right? He asked us in the room, who here has a mofer? And I was like, what the heck is a mofer? Like, I don't know the KW lingo. So I turned to my next, and I think it was Ben Kenny. I'm like, what is a mofer? And he's like, make offer for immediate response. I'm like, what the heck is that? And he's like, what do you have in your business that makes your people like sticky to you? And I was like, oh, I have that. So I raised my hand and they're like, well, does anyone have that in a box? And I was like, what does he mean by that? And he's like, well, that can be duplicated. And I was like, well, I'm going to keep my hand raised because why not? I'll figure it out. And then he said, we're going to have you guys pitch those to us, those mofers. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I don't really have anything in a box yet, but I went on a mission. Like that was in December. I came back, I hired a developer, I hired a coder, I hired everyone. And I went on a mission to create a platform that was basically my brain of everything that I've taught and trained my agents and all of my designs in a box so that it could be rolled out nationwide. Then the pitch actually never happened. We never had the opportunity to present those to Gary. So I'm at family reunion because that's February, right? So 7 December, family reunion. And I see Gary Keller on stage next to Sajid Patel and Liz Landry. Okay. So I'm in life, I'm like figuring out how to get to the gatekeeper, right? So I'm like, okay, there's my gatekeeper steps. I need to get to Liz, to get to Sajid, to get to Gary. So I found Liz on Facebook and I private messaged her and was like, hey, Liz, you don't know me, but my team's ranked number 24 in the country. And I have a mofer that I would love for Gary to see. Can I just have 5 minutes of your time just to see if maybe you could help me? She immediately responded back, which I was shocked. And she's like, yes, I'll give you 5 minutes. The 5 minutes turned into an hour. And then she said, you know what? The person who really needs to see this is Sajid. And I was like, So Sajid can meet with you like Wednesday at 4. Well, they didn't know I wasn't in Austin. And they're like, can you do it? And I was like, yes. And so I literally got on a plane and flew my hiney to Austin and met with Sajid. And he was like, I love it. I need you to put it in a business plan in a 1-pager and I'll present it to Gary. That was in February. And we didn't sign everything and get that done until like 5 days before Mega Camp. So if that shows you the journey from like how long it took me to get to that point. But we did. Gary interviewed me a few times. We had amazing conversations and he has been so supportive along with the entire Keller Williams staff on really getting this launched out to the agents.
Well, when you think about it, that's actually really quick, right? To get onto this platform. And I think that's one of the real benefits of the Keller Williams ecosystem is it's an incredible distribution platform, right? To get things out. So talk to us a little bit. You took the contents of your brain and you put it online into this platform. How do agents utilize this and benefit from Style to Design?
Yeah. So what I did is I built a platform where they have 1,500 different designs of all price points, all styles, and all rooms. Okay. So every style, we call it design board, has everything sourced, even down to the flooring, to the paint color, to the light fixtures, to all the furniture, or if it's a renovation, everything down to backsplash, cabinetry, hardware, everything. Everything is sourced for the agent. So those design boards, you can actually take a picture of any room in the house and we can simulate that into the room. And then that way the agent, because you're simulating based off a design board that has click-through product to purchase, you can then advertise the listing as design service included. It's super powerful because one, you can go in, I teach the agents how to win listing appointments with it because that's how you differentiate yourself as an agent and that's how you differentiate the property and that's how you net the seller more money. Because if the seller were to hire a designer to do that, they would pay a lot of money to do it and they can literally do it by clicking a few buttons in our platform. What I just trademarked is revolutionizing real estate by design because National Association of Realtors says that, it's one of the only tangible assets a realtor can contribute to a transaction that maximizes the ROI up to 6 to 13% more. So with commission compression, especially with the shift in the market, like this is a tool that I know every agent needs.
Well, what I love about what you've done is you've built a massive moat around your business, because for anybody to try and replicate or duplicate the amount of work that you've put into this is mind-boggling to me. I just think that's outstanding. And we will actually have links to Style to Design in the show notes for our listeners to access. You owe it to yourself actually take a look at this, because it is really amazing.
Now that you've put this into a box and you've taken advantage of the distribution network and gotten some of these awards from NAR and all these great things, tell us about kind of the future vision for Style to Design. If we're sitting here several years from now, what should it look like? What do you want it to look like?
So right now, I'm working with companies from all over the world. We're integrating AI into everything so that you can get everything back in seconds. Versus right now, my entire design team is the one actually going in and doing the renderings and all of that stuff. And as you know, time is money. So I've got incredible technology. We're also working on making it that, when you put a listing online, you can hit the Style to Design on, Zillow, Realtor.com, and you can select the style and you can immediately actually start designing your home with click-through links to purchase right in the MLS system. I'm also working on all of our virtual tours through Matterport. We're syndicating our furniture in the Matterport tours. So when a client's actually walking the Matterport, they can click and purchase while they're walking through the tour, and they can actually see our designs in the actual home. What I'm asking people to do, they're like, that's never been done before. I'm like, exactly. Time is of the essence. So I'm just trying to get ahead of making sure I can get it quicker and faster. Because right now we're about 24 to 48 hours, but agents want them now. I mean, people are like, I'll pay more. Can I have it in like 5 hours? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I have a lot of designers, but we're the ones doing it.
Very cool.
So the future is that every agent across the country will have a tool to help them create the vision of the full potential of the house. Because right now, 81% of people can't see past what's in front of them.
I have to say it was obviously very fortuitous that you were sitting next to Ben Kinney that day, because Ben's in our region. And when we think of big thinkers, Ben is certainly at the top of that list up there, right?
I sent him a Facebook messenger too. It was a Sunday and he didn't even really know me, and immediately picked up the phone and called me. And then I didn't even really know who he was. And then I was looking at the rankings. I'm like, he's like all the way up there. Like, I can't believe he called me on a Sunday. He spoke with me for over an hour, helping me with business planning, ideas. I mean, he was amazing.
Oh, that's outstanding. Based on what you know today, if you were to go back and talk to your younger self, thinking about getting into real estate, what would your advice be?
My advice would be find the right mentor. Work for them for a year, learn everything you could ever possibly know, and create the right systems right off the bat. Because it took me a lot of time to clean up the mess that I created because I didn't have it. So if I can only imagine where I would be today if I had the right tools and systems in place from the start. So I would say every new agent needs to go through BOLD. And they should have a mentor. They should have a mentor that's, doing at least 20 plus million a year that can help them, really think big.
Love that. Well, Heather, this has been a treat for us today. I got to be honest with you, we could probably spend hours because in my head, I've got all these questions going off, and yet, time doesn't allow us to do that. So I just want to say thank you for this. I mean, you've dropped some really wonderful stuff on us today. And I just want to say to all of our listeners, if you have referrals, it's really the West Coast, right, of Florida, the Gulf Coast of Florida. Look no further than Heather Caine and her team. And we'll have all of Heather's contact information in the show notes. Again, Heather, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Bye.
Hang tight. We'll be right back. Climbing interest rates mean less homeowners moving and more uncertainty. You may be looking for a new value proposition. What if you could become the visionary for any staging, design, or renovation need? Style to Design is a staging and design platform, and we invented reality staging and reality renovations. Build your value proposition with access to 1,500 plus design boards, reality tools, customized marketing content, and lead generation website pages. Learn more at styletodesign.com.
Well, Chase,
Wow.
mind blown. God, I love it when we get to interview these big thinkers. And Heather is obviously a big thinker.
Yeah, she is. And one of the cool things that I love about her story, Bruce, and she shared it towards the beginning, was that she was just really clear about what she liked and was good at, right? She talked about loving staging and flipping houses and designing those type of things. But she also talked about loving the emotional side of serving families, which is ultimately what led her into residential real estate, even though she had a diverse background in property management, commercial, et cetera. She was just really clear on what she liked. And that led her into these moments of thinking differently about how she could do those things on an even bigger scale. And I just love the fact that she was challenged ultimately by Gary. And it wasn't Gary just calling her out specifically, but a group of top people. And I think it's a good reminder that oftentimes we think that maybe some people are just born big thinkers, although maybe that's true. Ultimately, when you put a lot of powerful people into a room together and you ask the right questions or give them the right challenge, then you help them think bigger as a collective. And I thought that was a really cool part of the story because Gary's been known to do that.
Oh my gosh. That was my first aha as well. What she brought home for me was this concept that we talk about a lot, which is who you're in business with really matters. You know, I've watched Gary challenge people, challenge me for that matter, ever since I first met him, which was in November of 1989. I got to audit a room of the top 20 agents because we were a small company back then. And to watch him challenge people to go build business performers for ancillary businesses that were in alignment with their business. So what he did with Heather was not new, right? He's been doing that for a long time. And in fact, you know, Ben Kinney is another example of someone whose thinking was challenged and he was able to grow that. I just want to say to our listeners, right, what Heather was sharing there was the ability to think beyond what you currently do and currently have. You know, Gary, even in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which he wrote back in 2001, was the millionaire real estate agent. It's not about the money. And really the mantra was think big, aim high, act bold, and live large. This concept of thinking big is not new. And yet when you realize, as she said, right, commission, and you and I talk about this every week in the news, commission dollars are being compressed. Thinking about how can I develop other streams of income in order to accomplish, you know, and maintain my margin and my return on investment.
Not only that, Bruce, but creating those streams of income through these ways that are serving others, right? You can hear that flow throughout all that Heather shared, from what made her decision to come to the Keller Williams platform as an independent owner. It was all about them making it a win for her people. And then she talked about the way that she leads and coaches them to go out and be leaders in the community and what that looks like, and kind of serving them around understanding how to do that well. And then even this style to design and this reality staging and design, which is all about serving the agent. Number one, fight back against that commission compression. Number two, now she's talking about helping them create additional revenue streams for themselves through the products that get purchased through this technology, and ultimately helping them maximize the value of each home in a way that a lot of people aren't naturally good at. Matter of fact, she said 81% of people can't really see beyond what's in front of them. And that really resonates with me. I couldn't walk into a house and imagine what colors and furniture and stuff should be in there. And I know I'm not that different from a whole lot of people. So she's found these opportunities where there's a real need, and then she's delivering value there. And ultimately, that's then creating these big opportunities in the revenue. And it's kind of that old adage, right? If you help enough people get what they want, then you can get what you want, kind of saying. And Heather really personifies that in her business.
Yeah, I thought there are a couple of key things too, right? My question regarding the luxury client, right? And what they want is convenience. They want things done for them. And she's gone and built this whole value proposition around concierge service, right? Where, organizing all of that. And again, my mind was just sort of running as she was talking about that, thinking, oh my gosh, a great book I just read, Unreasonable Hospitality. That's what that sounded like to me, right? Where she was doing things that most people would not find reasonable as a course of doing business, right? She's being totally unreasonable about it. And by the way, getting the business, and her numbers speak for themselves. And then the idea, right, of, hey, let me take care of the calling. And I'm sure she does it in a TCPA compliant and friendly manner with her prospecting. And yet taking that off of most agents, right? It's no wonder that she has these agents all wanting to join and be a part of her team, is because of the value she's bringing to the table for them. And then coaching them, as you said, to go out and become leaders in their communities.
Yeah, when you ask the question you always do about advice to your younger self, I love that she said you need to get a mentor, right? And by the way, you need to get a mentor that does a lot of business and helps you not only learn from them, which is kind of the obvious, but also helps you think bigger. She's gotten some of that from Gary, and I'm certain others. She's offering that as a leader inside of her organizations and all that she's involved in. And I think that's such powerful advice. You always use the quote of, if I have seen further than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants, right? And that's really what I think she meant when she's talking about creating this mentorship relationship. Some might call it a coach. Others would call it just someone you work for, right? Someone you help determine wealth for. I just thought that's such great advice that not enough people getting into this industry or otherwise take advantage of, right? They accidentally end up trying to figure it out on their own as an independent contractor, right? An entrepreneur. And here you have one of the best in the business saying, hey, get a mentor from day one and let them help you think bigger.
Yeah, if you don't have someone like that in your life, don't be shy. Just go and ask. It's one of the reasons why, Chase, I always recommend people go to family reunion and mega camp, is for the opportunity to go and build those relationships, right? That's where the true value lies. It's in those relationships. And when you think that, she's accomplished all that she has in really 13 years, that's a great example of somebody standing on the shoulders of giants. There's no doubt about that. Next week's Northern Lights guest is Rachel Harris with Keller Williams Greater 360 in Poolsbo, Washington. We'll see you next week on The Real Look.
This podcast is produced by Marissa Frost. Visit KWNWR.com to access the show notes from today's episode. Head over to Apple, Google, or Spotify, or really any major streaming platform to subscribe, and don't forget to leave us a review. Thanks again for listening to The Real Look.